all this time you've already been using functions. I just didn't tell you. So this is a function. You see how this is a name of a function, and this is just it's just syntax. So you just got to remember it. Well, don't. Okay. So the thing about code is, don't try to memorize things, because you could always refer back to old stuff that you've written or quickly Google something. Just recognize it. That's good enough.
I have a question about like the brackets and stuff, because like you said that's pretty important. So is there like a specific way that you write those parentheses, bracket, and stuff like that?
Yeah, it does have to be very specific. Otherwise, the code editor would get confused. Like if I accidentally added an extra one, you see like it'll yell at me. But it's nice because it tells you like what might be the issue. So then you just go ahead and correct it, and then the red will go away. And then also, there is a very important difference between the parentheses versus the squiggly bracket. So parentheses generally are for receiving stuff. So like I could put variables in here, like if I said, I don't know, last name, then if I were to console log last name, I would have access to that thing. But we're about to get into that. I'll explain that later. So right now, just know that this is generally for receiving stuff, and right now it's just not receiving anything. Whereas this bracket, this open bracket, it's mostly for like encapsulating sections. So like this is like a section of stuff. So then I want it between these two brackets. That makes sense. So like kind of like over here where we did dot includes, we see like we're passing in W. So that's why it's a parentheses as opposed to open bracket. And then we see over here with the object, it's open bracket because it's like, well, this is because it's an object, but also just similarly, it's like here's a section of stuff. Okay. And then you also just kind of get used to it as you keep doing it over and over and over again. So as I was saying, so these are all functions. Amy is a function, Wesley is a function, Rob is a function. Those are the names. And then inside of the function, we are storing values and doing logic. Well, we were doing logic, like the dot for each and stuff like that. And then at the end of a function, I could return a value. I could return anything. So if I want, I could return once coded, right? And this once coded 12 would be the return value of the Rob function. So if I wanted to, I could store that into a variable, say const Rob once coded equals this dot Rob, and this will now become 12. Like the value of this is 12. Because I'm calling this function over here that is returning this variable that has a value of 12. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what I'm about to do is I'm going to take this value of the helper function, Rob. Well, we know it's 12, right? So I'm going to take this variable that it has the value of 12, and then I'm going to render it to our Chrome browser. So I'm going to say something like Rob has coded, and then there's this syntax that you have to do. Coded months coded. So what this just did is, well, I could just show you. So I'm going to save this. And I'm going to see is our Chrome browser now says Rob has coded 12 months. So what just happened here was inside of this render function, I used a helper function that gets information for me. And this helper function is Rob. But if I wanted to, I could do the same for Wesley. I could say const Wesley months coded equals this dot Wesley, but I have to make sure that the Wesley helper function is returning something. So I want to return months coded. Now I have both of our months coded, and I can make use of both variables in the actual like display however I want. So I could say Rob and Wesley has coded Rob's months coded plus Wesley months coded in total. So then over here we could see it did the math for you. Right, and you can start doing very intricate things just with the fundamentals that I taught you. So like you could iterate through stuff and change stuff and start saving stuff in database, like, well, not like a proper database, but like inside an object, and start rendering things however you want. Like I could conditionally render things too, which means let's say what I want. Okay, got it. Okay. Has Amy coded? Question mark. Yes. Or no. So this is a conditional right here. It says it's basically asking if this value is true, then show this. Otherwise, show this. And we could see here no happened because Amy's helper method returned false. We see over here has coded before equals false. So when we hit this conditional, it grabbed the no instead of the yes. But if we switch it and we say has was coded before, has was coded before, we'll see this change to yes. So did that make sense?
Wait, so the question mark is
Yeah.
the key?
Not quite. This is a little bit different. It's just a shorthand for saying the same thing as this. If has was coded before equals true, then return yes. So this one line is the same as if I wrote all of this stuff, else return no.
Oh.
Okay. And you're going to see both. Neither are right or wrong. It's just whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, so
like another way I could do this is we could store a variable. We could say yes or no equals empty string. And then we could say has was coded before equals true, then yes or no. Oops. Yes or no equals yes. Else, which means it wasn't true, then yes or no equals no. This needs to be a let. I'll explain why I need to change this to a let in a second.
because constant doesn't change, right?
Right.
Right.
So then instead of doing this now, I could say yes or no, which has a new value of either yes or no. So if I save that, it's still yes. But if I were to change has Wes coded before to has Amy coded, now we're gonna get a no. So this 5 lines was the same exact thing as if I said has Amy coded question mark colon blah 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 blah. Same exact thing.
So I just want to clarify something. So when you did the function has Amy coded and then the question mark and then the string yes and then string no. So like I'm just trying to understand, like, so what if I reverse like string no first and then string yes?
Yeah, good question. So it'll always do the first thing if it's true. And if it's false, then it'll do the second thing. But if this was false, so I'll ask you instead. So has Amy coded was false. What do you think is, oh damn it, shouldn't hide that. Okay, so let's change it to you. Has Wes coded. So what do you think is gonna happen?
Second. Well, actually, no. Yeah, first.
Okay, yeah, it's gonna be first because this is true. So it'll
Right.
return the first thing.
Okay, so no matter what, it'll just do the first thing.
Well,
Oh,
this
if it's
is
true. If it's
right.
true, yes. Okay.
So basically, true, this, false, this.
Okay, I see.
Okay. But if I were to say at index 1, which does not exist, and then try to save this, the app crashes.
Cool.